This is your host, Brian, and I'd like to introduce you to our special guest today, Paul Beauchemin of PI Profits Agency. Paul Beauchemin brings deep business experience into the private investigator industry. He is president of PI Profits, a results-oriented marketing, sales, and customer service agency dedicated exclusively to private investigators. He is the creator of the Genius Minds of Investigation project and also previously created and launched Sherlock Docs, an online tool to help PIs create reports and share them with clients using 21st century technology. Today's topic is complete online marketing for private investigators. Paul, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Glad to be with you, Brian.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you, Paul. And we got quite a few things to go through, it seems like, so let's launch right into the questions if you're okay.
Yes.
All right. So let me ask, why is it important for PIs to focus on online marketing versus offline marketing?
Well, what's happening in the world today is that everybody's got their phones and their tablets, and they are spending a tremendous amount of time online researching before they make buying decisions. Mm-hmm. And since they're doing that, I read a statistic recently in a book called Utility, that's YOU Utility, and it talked about how that just in the last 3 years, the number of searches that people do before they make a buying decision has gone from something like 4 searches to 11. So people have more than doubled the amount of research they do. And, the internet is just one vast library, essentially, about everything you might want to know. And so if you're not in a position where people can research your private investigation firm and find out whether or not it offers a solution to their problems, then you're not going to be in a very good position a couple of years from now. I think this is only going to get more and more important as a way of doing business. And your online presence is going to be really the hub and center of everything that you do. It's not that offline is going to disappear. I think offline is still a very important component of marketing. And it may be more effective because there's less of it that's going to be being done. But, people are going to be walking around with their phones, and they're going to search for a PI. And if your name's not popping up there in their location-based application, then you're out of business.
Definitely. And I know exactly what you're talking about when you say that, because sometimes I'm browsing the internet, and this is a little off of the private investigators, but still in the same topic, is I find something that I like or a service. I'm like, wow, look at that. That seems so cool. Let's go find out some more about it. And there are no reviews of it, and no one's talked about it because they haven't presented themselves in such a way that other people have said anything about their agency. And so as a result, I feel less inclined to buy that product or service because I know nothing about it from the consumer perspective.
Right. That's because you're depending on something called social proof, which Robert Cialdini talks about in his Psychology of Persuasion book. That's one of the ways we make decisions is by looking at social proof. And in other words, what is everybody else doing?
And as you said, people are looking up a lot more. They want to know more about that company. And in my experience, a lot of that has come from social proof, is you see what other people have to say about it.
Right.
And so that takes us then more into what are the aspects of online marketing?
Well, I kind of think of it in terms of about 7 different aspects of your online presence. So the overall thing would be the content on your website, so the words used. Then there would be the organic results, the search returns would be another aspect. Email marketing is the third aspect. Then there's social media marketing. There's online advertising. Then there's a mobile aspect and local, which is what you were just talking about. Mm-hmm. And then probably the most important and least used and least understood is the analytics and conversion, the numbers. People are very math-phobic, and they tend to forget about that stuff and whereas that's probably where most people have stuck.
That I know what you're talking about there too. I've done that when I got into online marketing, and I'm like, all I want to do is make money. I don't care where it comes from. And so I started, and then look, I spend money on this and that. No, look, some money comes in, but then I only realized then that I had no idea where it came from, and I was spending a lot of money on things that I shouldn't have been, that weren't bringing in money. But that'll be down the road. That seems like the final step. You gave me 7, it seems like. So let's start at the beginning, the content of it.
Right. So, basically when you have a website up, you put some words on that website, and the words are really important because this is what your clients are looking for. They're looking to see if you have a solution to their problem. So you have to know, do they name your problem? Do they provide solutions to it? Do they have benefits they show? And it's very important for them to read and become engaged with those words. And in the second aspect of the SEO, it's also important. But so when you're thinking about what you put on your website, the first thing you need to be thinking about is what are your clients saying? So you need to be listening to them, doing some research into what they're saying, understanding your market completely is very, very critical. Then, another part of your content, you may have a blog on your website. You may want to have, or I think you should have, I think it's very important to have lead capture. Mm-hmm. And the other part is that you ought to think about where you want people to land when they come to your website. What's your landing page look like? So a lot of people will put everything on their homepage and, drive traffic to that homepage, and it's so confusing that the visitor just doesn't know what to do. So you have to be very, very strategic and careful about what content you put online and what to say and where to say it on what pages.
I remember you telling me about that in our previous interviews, and to anyone listening, you should definitely go check out Paul's previous interviews. He's got a wealth of knowledge on all this stuff as well, very in-depth. But in the content, I do remember you telling me there was, a website you found that just had, it was overwhelming. The PI did everything under the sun, but you told me that even though maybe he could have been the very best at this, people just leave the page because he's not laser focused. Isn't that right?
That's right. You have to have a laser focus. When someone comes to your page, if you have too many things that distract them, then they can't get what they're looking for. So, especially true later on when we talk about advertising, how important that is. But there's a number of different aspects. The more content you have on your site, of course, the more attractive it is for the search engine. So, there's a lot of factors, and any content you put out there, you want to try to not just put on your website, but kind of amplify it so that, that message, if you put a blog post, for example, on your website as a piece of content, you've done some research on a certain aspect of your market, whether it's insurance fraud or something else, you want to be able to amplify that, and you can do that with other things we're going to talk about later, like social media, for example. But you want to find a way to amplify that content so it reaches a broader audience than just the traffic coming to your website. And I want to say this about the website too, is that when you first set up a website as a PI or anybody really, when you first set up a website, you don't get much traffic. It takes a long time for any traffic to be generated, and a lot of that comes from having more and more content. So this is a process. It's not an instant thing where you hire somebody to pay you $5,000 to set up a website and suddenly you're going to get traffic. It doesn't happen that way.
Definitely, but a part of that process, the adding content, leads us into the second part you talked about. It's the organic SEO. So how about you talk a little more about that?
So SEO stands for search engine optimization.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically organic SEO. So when you do a type of search into Google or Bing or any of these search engines, you get some search results that come back. Now there's a lot of ads that are on top, and like Google, for example, the top part's ads and the right column's ads. But the main section that people's eyeballs go to are the organic search results. And unless you're in the top page, and often, probably about 80%, the top three searches, unless you're in the top three searches, you're not going to get very many clicks from search engines, okay? So there's a lot of problems with a lot of websites people set up, and because they don't understand what the search engines are looking for. So one of the things that's important when someone types in a search is the terms that type in the search are often called keywords. Okay, so your web page has to match the keywords for the search. You know, that's one of the things that Google is looking to match, the keywords on your web page. So if you have a web page that discusses cheating, spouse, and infidelity, and insurance fraud, and 10 other different things that a PI might do, if there's too many different things on your page, Google's not going to put that as a top return for a term like cheating spouse. They're going to look for a page that has the words cheating spouse, infidelity, and talks about that. And there's a certain 3 to 5% of the words on that page are the primary keywords. So if Google looks and says, 3 to 5% of the words are on cheating spouse, that's the keyword for this page. And if you only mention cheating spouse one time on your page, that's never going to be ranked on a search. You're never going to get returned on a search. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of on-page factors about that. So that's one factor in organic SEO. Another is links from authority sites. They often are called backlinks. So, one of the ways, there's two primary ways that a search engine will decide to rank your site. One is that it has content that is relevant to the keyword search term typed into the search box, and the other is how other sites view your site, and what Google considers authority sites. So if you have a link from Facebook, Facebook's a big authority site, okay, that would be counted as a great backlink. If you have a link, if you're doing insurance fraud, and you have links from Allstate Insurance and Farmers Insurance and Progressive Insurance, and you have all these links from insurance companies, and you're talking about insurance fraud, those are great authority backlinks. So, but the backlinks not only have to be from sites that Google considers very high, and they have a factor called PageRank on there that they use, and it goes from 0 to 10, and the higher you are, the closer to a 10, the more authority you have. Mm-hmm. And the link also has to be relevant to the keyword search. So if you have backlinks from, let's say, McDonald's chain, and you're doing if your website is about cheating spouses, a backlink from McDonald's is actually a detractor, and actually, probably get penalized from Google if you try to have non-relevant links from other sites. The other part of organic is if you're trying to serve a local area, mm-hmm. It's important for you to have local names of the towns and your copy on your website, the addresses, driving directions, and there's certain sites like getlisted.org or Google Places that you would need to use to get your site listed locally. So in order to rank high for a local search, so let's say somebody types in private investigator, Chattanooga. If you have terms listed relevant to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and have the words Chattanooga, Tennessee, and several different places in your page, and of course you're going to get a much higher ranking in the search result.
Definitely. And I know that you were talking about the PR, and for anyone listening, the PR of a website, and there are plenty of tools to help you find this out, and I'm sure Paul will help you out with that later when you get to talk to him personally in our free offer at the end. But the PR, say you find a PR1 site, 3 PR1 sites does not equal a PR3 site. It's scaled, so a PR3 might be worth hundreds of PR1 sites or even thousands of PR1 or PR0 sites. So that's all details to get into with Paul a little later. So just so you know, if you have someone saying, "Oh, we'll get you all these great sites," you just need 3 PR1 sites to get a like a super site like that. No, it doesn't quite work that way. But you gave a lot of depth, I think, on the organic SEO, probably more than any other interview we've had. But how about email marketing?
Well, email marketing is probably one of the most underrated and most cost-effective ways to do marketing today. It really costs pennies to send out emails. And, people have been saying for years that email is dead, but email is very, very much alive. And the largest companies in the world are doing a ton of email marketing. And so it's very important for you to have a way to do email marketing. Now, the first thing you need to do, obviously, is provide some kind of a service provider. If you get a domain, you probably got an email address with it, but that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about an email service provider. You probably heard ads for different providers. There's things like Constant Contact, MailChimp, Aweber. There's others that are more sophisticated, like Infusionsoft and Entreport. But these are all different email service providers. And what they allow you to do is send out emails to dozens, to hundreds, to thousands, or hundreds of thousands of clients. Obviously, most of the listeners probably don't have hundreds of thousands of clients, but some of my clients have well over 1,000 past and present clients. Mm-hmm. And so by doing some database marketing to these past and present clients, they can keep in contact with them. They can create referral campaigns to these past and current clients. I'd recommend at least twice a year you send out an email to these people and make some kind of an offer for a referral. So that's very important. You could send out a newsletter to your clients just to keep in touch. It's very important, even with clients that you've had in the past, to always keep in touch so that if they need your service again, that you're at the top of the mind and they haven't forgotten about you. Very, very important. I mentioned in the content section above that capturing lead capture is very important. And this is where lead capture comes in. So when you capture the names and email addresses of people coming to your website, what you should do is offer them something in exchange for the name and email address, some kind of a ethical bribe or content bait, we call it. But really, it's educational marketing.
It's incentive.
Right, an incentive to give you the information. And you can offer several different incentives. So, a lot of PIs have multiple specialties. And what an email service provider allows you to do is to segment your list. You could tag them by different specialties. So a person that's interested in fraud is getting one thing. A person that's interested in a cheating spouse is getting something else. So every segment of your market can be getting different email campaigns that are geared and focused on their pain and their problems and not on you necessarily. And you can use these over and over again to keep in touch with your clients and to nurture clients through your lead funnel. I think we talked one week about going through a lead funnel. And there's a whole process where you capture a lead, but then you've got to nurture a lead because most people are not ready to buy right now. And the email service provider allows you to go through this nurturing process.
Mm-hmm. In sales, what was it, like 7 no's is the most common? You get past a certain number of no, and eventually they say yes. But it's not about pestering. It's about it's about becoming familiar with them and befriending them, and so they trust you, and they go from a cold prospect into a warm lead.
Right.
And,
it's exactly that. It's about building trust, and you need about 7 or 8 contacts or touches, what we call a touch, with a potential client before they start to trust you. And, you could say that's pestering, but, you don't like to do business with people you don't know. And the better they know you and how, the more they know about you, the more confident and trusting they will be that, hey, and that's what this is all about, is building trust so that they realize that you're the one that can help them.
Definitely. And so how about social media marketing?
Well, social media marketing, I think, is probably, for private investigators, is probably one of the most overrated and poorly used. Overrated and poorly used aspects. So, there's a lot of other agencies that are talking about getting a Facebook account and a Twitter account and doing a lot of that. And that's probably not for most of the clients that private investigators have, whether are attorneys or corporations. They're not going to be on Facebook and Twitter necessarily. I think that there may be some application for the cheating spouse type investigator.
Mm-hmm.
But really, probably of all those, there's only 2 social media things that I would really pay attention to. One is LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn has a tremendous number of groups that are all professionals. And, for example, if you want to get more lawyers as clients, you can go and join 5 to 10 different legal groups and start to understand and learn the problems of the attorneys in that group. And you can build relationships with those people. So LinkedIn would be very, very useful to going after your target market. You don't want to be spamming them in there, but basically trying to learn and understand them. Mm-hmm. The other social media thing that I think is useful, but not in the way that useful for acquiring clients. It's useful mostly in the way for Google, and that's Google+. And by cross-posting some of your content from your website into Google+, it helps build authority to your website. I don't see an awful lot of use for it yet other than that, but it does help in that aspect of kind of organic SEO, if you will. But so social media, like I said, I don't see a lot of value yet in the PI market. It may come one day, but at this point, there's way better methods of attaining clients and spending a lot of time on social media. I don't think you ought to totally ignore it, but I don't think you ought to spend a good deal of time on it.
We are getting a little close to the end of our thing, but so let's get through these with still giving as much value to our listeners as we can. So how about online advertising? Because I know you talked to me about that before, like PPC and banner ads.
Price per click advertising. So one of the biggest mistakes people make when doing PPC, they'll hire a firm to do PPC for them, and they'll have a website that's not designed to have a good message to market match. So when you advertise using AdWords or some PPC advertising, the ad that the link that the ad goes to ought to have nothing on there but exactly the topic that people are looking for. There should be absolutely nothing else on that page. So if your ad is about insurance, there ought to be nothing about any other kind of investigation. If it's about cheating spouses, there ought to be nothing else but talking about the problem of cheating spouses. Okay, very, very critical. I've seen people spend $10,000 or $15,000 on PPC and get burned because it went to their website, and the website had a zillion things on it on the main page, and people had no idea what to do. Okay, and it also, when you send people from an online ad to your landing page, you ought to have a lead capture with a free offer, as we talked about before, because not everybody is ready to call you right now. But you can capture those people clicked on your ad, they're interested, they're going to probably hire someone at some point. You need to capture names and email address. You also need to make sure you eliminate negative keywords. For example, if you put private investigator as one of the lines in your ad, make sure you have a negative keyword like jobs or careers or things like that. So you don't want those ads showing up, for private investigator jobs or something like that when somebody does a search for that. And you also want to make sure that you have probably used exact word or exact phrase matches and not just have a general match in order to get the most bang for your buck there. Okay?
Okay. And sorry, I was going to say the banner advertising.
Well, the only thing I consider with that is consider something like retargeting or remarketing. So if someone comes to your website, what retargeting does is it puts a cookie on in their browser, and so you would want to have your banner ads show up whenever they go to other sites. So they say, so-and-so investigations is advertising everywhere. Maybe I ought to go back and visit them again. But that'd be the biggest thing there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's excellent. So how, and real quick before we move to the next one, the lead capture, just so our listeners understand, that goes back to the email marketing, which was the third in this list. And in my opinion, email marketing is the best marketing that there is, because you get somebody on your list and then you could just keep emailing them over and over and over, and you're not paying extra to talk to the same person. In my opinion, it's like when you have a customer come into your business and then they keep returning to your business. It's harder to get a new customer. It's easy to keep a current one. Yeah. So then that leads into the mobile and local.
Right. So a lot of people, they're just walking around, and it's over 25% of searches now are on phones and small tablets. And so you need to have a website that's mobile friendly. A lot of them that people have are not. And so when they try to search for you, they're not going to find you. And I think probably one that greatest little things if you use something like Go Mobile or there's some WordPress plugins that allow you to have mobile-friendly sites. But one of the things you ought to put down is a click-to-chat function on your website and mobile website, so that people can just click on their phone and connect directly with you. I think that'd be a great upgrade in a lot of mobile websites. The other thing, if you're going to advertise on mobile ads, they need to be obviously different, but you ought to have more direct calls to action than a lot of the fancy stuff. So that's all I want to say about mobile. And it goes along with local advertising, which we talked about as well, about, you want to have a lot of your content with the local keywords, local addresses, local names of counties and towns and villages around where your business is located.
Definitely. So I know close to where I live, like around me is Portland, Oregon. So then you could have private investigator, Portland, Oregon, or Portland, OR, and the search engine tends to pick these things up from your pages. So when people type that in, your page or your website will rank higher in search results as a result of that. Right. And so finally here is the analytics and conversion, probably the worst thing you could forget to use for your business.
Right. So one of the great things about having a website is that it can be a tool for measuring the results and helping you to improve. And one of the things that PIs often do is they advertise they don't know what worked, what didn't work, because they're not measuring very well. And so, first off, everyone ought to install Google Analytics on their site. It's free, and it's a great tool, and it really helps you figure out where your visitors are coming from. You can see how many of them are mobile users, how many are local. It can tell you very, very precisely where your visitors are coming from, even what kind of browser they're using, everything. So it's a great tool to have on your website and be able to go into a Google Analytics account. The other thing that it's useful for is it can help you with knowing what your conversion rate is. And this is where a lot of people fail, I think. So, we talked about your marketing funnel. So
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of the funnel is your advertising budget and what you're spending to try to get people's attention, whether it be online advertising, offline advertising, TV advertising, any of those, radio advertising. And most advertising is driving people to a website. And so when they get to a website, you can tell from, if you have a Google Analytics, how many people are landing on your page, and then you can tell how many people you capture. So now you have a conversion rate. Now you can measure your conversion rate. So you know what percentage of people, bounce off your pages, what percentage of people land and stay. You can tell with Google Analytics how long they stay on your page, on each page, so how many pages they visit on your site. So you know the engagement, which goes back to your content and your copyright. And you can also measure your conversion at each step. So if you know that 100 people land on your page and you get 20 that give you the name and email, you've got 20% conversion from visitor to prospect, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, the next part in your email marketing, you may offer a 30-minute consultation to those people on your email list. Now, if you have 100 people on your email list and you get 10 people that are willing to give you a 30-minute call, now you've got a 10% conversion on that step. And then out of those people that you get a 30-minute call, how many people you turn into clients. And you can measure each stage of that process, what your conversion is through each stage of the process now. So then you can figure out, well, where can I get the most bang for my buck? Is it spending another $10,000 in advertising and putting more people in the funnel, or is it improving the conversion at one of these stages? So if I put in, keep the same advertising budget, but I improve the number of people giving me the names and email addresses from 20% to 40%, I'll have a huge increase in my bottom line because the other things being equal, my sales will double, okay, without spending a single dollar more in advertising. And you can get that better conversion by the type of copywriting you do, the landing page design, the words you write on the landing page, how, the free offer that you give people. All those things can improve the engagement of your prospect and the conversion from visitor to client. And you can do this all along your marketing funnel. Look at each step of the marketing funnel, look at your conversion during that step, and see if you can improve that conversion. And now you have a measurable way to see what you're doing. And you can do, with Google Analytics, you can do A/B testing. With AdWords, for example, Google AdWords, you can do split testing. You can test multiple different types of ads and see which ones convert into prospects and then leads and clients. And you can see that, maybe you get a tremendous number of people opting in from one type of AdWord, but those people don't become clients. Whereas another type of ad gives you fewer people opting in, but you get more clients. Mm-hmm. And so unless you can measure all these things, you have no idea what's going on, and you're just kind of out there guessing and using hope to figure out if you're successful or not. And with a website as the hub of your marketing and using all the 7 steps I've talked about here, now you have a system where you can precisely measure what works, what doesn't work. And once you know what works and what doesn't work, basically it's just printing money. And so
who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah, who doesn't want to do that? That's right.
So yeah, I'll tell you what, we've actually went a little past our time limit, but it has been so fantastic talking to you, Paul. It's really been a pleasure. And for those of you listening to this interview, if you'd like to learn more about how to grow your private investigator business, Paul has generously offered a free 30-minute best practice marketing investigation briefing for listeners of this interview. In this briefing, Paul will help you identify what might be the biggest holes in your marketing strategy, as well as the biggest opportunities for additional profit in your PI business. Keep in mind that spots are limited and will be made available on a first-come, first-served basis. If you're interested or even just curious to learn more, then sign up for one of these spots and reserve a free one-on-one marketing briefing call with Paul at no cost to you at easypiprofits.com. Once again, that's easypiprofits, all one word, .com. Thank you so much for being with us again, Paul. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Pleasure speaking with you, Brian, and hope we talk again soon.
All right. Have a fantastic weekend.